Well, it's still good morning. Well, it could be good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're at.
And welcome to our discussion on safer spaces through better behavior and mutual understanding. And when I asked Their Excellencies of the Westermark to come up with a title, this is what they suggested. And we want to, there's a lot of buzz, at least in West Kingdom right now, about volunteerism and burnout, among other things. And so we wanted to really talk about that from a DEIB perspective. I thought I'd start by sharing the Brave Spaces poem, because the way I talk about safer spaces is Mickey Scott Bay Jones has a poem called Brave Spaces, and I will share the screen and I'll read it, and we can also see it. I have to find it though. It went away. Hold on a second, because I switched screens. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. So I'll read it, and here we go. An invitation to brave space. Together we will create brave space, because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we all have caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be. But it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. I'll give you guys
That's a good poem.
a few more seconds.
I like that he's brave enough to say there's no such thing as a safe space, because that was knocking around in my brain pan about we try to create safe spaces, but let's be real.
Yeah, and I think what it is that we're really striving for is a safer space.
Yeah.
Agreed.
The idea is like safe is one of those words, and I don't like the term relativity, but it's a relative word, because one space may be safer than another. Sitting in a living room might be safer than sitting on a factory floor, moving machines and welders and paint booths and whatnot going on. So it's all, where are you at? What's going on? Because the one thing I learned studying culture, studying things in college, is the idea of cultural relativity. Yeah, that only goes so far, because while something may work within a culture, is it really fair to everyone within that culture? Does it work for everyone within that culture? Or is it just, some predominant group benefits from that thing? So that's kind of why I sort of try to shy away from the idea of relativity. But yes, safety is a relative thing, because it's about risk management.
Right.
We're going to manage the risks we can, and then mitigate the risks that we can't. It's like, okay, there's welding going on. Okay, there's things I can do, and there's things that I can't do. I can't alter what's going on with the welding, but I can either remove myself from it, shield myself from it, look the other way, do something on my part, but I can't alter what's going on over there with the welder. Whereas people behaving towards each other, that's different, because now we can actually alter and affect what other people do, how they behave, either through our own actions. Is, look, I'm going to act this way. You're going to act some other way, but I'm going to act this way. I'll try to set the example as best I can. If others choose to follow, that's their choice. And we can take it a step further. Say, okay, now we're going to, maybe make some rules. We're going to be polite to each other. We're not going to touch each other without permission. Some normal things that most societies are going to do, that most societies are going to have, and so that's part of the structure, the framework that we all work within. Some people understand a little bit better than others. We're all somewhere divergent in some fashion. But the important thing to remember is, okay, if we're going to have rules, then we all need to know what they are. We need to publish them. We need to, maybe talk them, discuss them, and they got to be someplace where it's accessible, which means people should be able to read it. If they can't read it, can someone read it to them? I mean, that was really what Hammurabi did thousands of years ago. It's like, look, we're going to publish the law, and then we're going to put the law someplace. And all right, what is that? Well, that's the law. Oh, I can't see what it is. I can tell there's something here. Can you read it to me? Okay, now you're asking to be informed of the law. I'll read it to you. If I don't read it to you, well, why not? Because I can't read. Can you tell me what this says? So if we have a set of rules and we have the idea of understanding, now we can start building a framework. Now we can understand, okay, we're all people. We all have feelings. We all matter. We all have something to contribute. Not being criticized or maybe disagreed. So, okay, now we can political discussion and discourse and things that most of us have grown up with and we take for granted, and we don't actually stop and look at them. It's like, what's really happening here? It's a exists. It's on us because that's what society does. Society exists and it imposes things upon us. That to be agreed to it. Well, what's going on here? Can safer, create our brave space or our safer space.
So just pause. You're cutting in and out for a few of us.
It's probably just the microphone and the laptop is
Yeah, if you
probably
lean forward a little bit, it's picking it up. Yeah,
okay. Oh, let me adjust this a little bit. I can adjust it. There we go.
there we go.
If we can stop and say, okay, look, we're all adults. We all can figure things out. We can solve problems. We could all run Excel. I think we can figure this out. If we can run Excel, or we can, publish something that's going to be a nice looking newsletter, we can figure this out because it's actually not much more difficult than that. What kind of space do we want? Do we want a creative space? Do we want a space where we can maybe write music or write poetry or maybe build things or make things or fight or whatever it is that we want to do? Maybe we need to sort of boil the idea down to, okay, what are some universals that are going to work everywhere and in most situations? We can worry about the particulars of, say, fighting later. This is a martial thing, so you're not going to have a bunch of kids running around out there because that's unsafe. And then you need to have certain skills. You need to have training to be safe. You need to have the right mental attitude. If you go crazy and start swinging on anybody, that's unsafe. That's a little more specific. Even walk out onto the list field.
Lean forward.
If you walk out on the list field, you're going to still find people behaving the same way as they would in the arts and sciences tent. We're going to stop. We're going to make sure everyone understands what's going on. We're going to talk to each other. We're going to have dialogue and discourse. Fighters are deciding who's winning the fight, not the audience. So they're going to maybe talk to each other. And then someone will have to communicate to the audience, hey, what's going on? They're just sitting there talking. Well, maybe they're not sure. Oh, okay.
So I think we're all in agreement about what is common sense, even when it's often neither. And I know in this particular group, I think we all agree on what is considered good behavior, what the parameters are within the society. What we're dealing with, though, is people bringing things from outside society. And we got two, to me, it's almost like there's two tracks going on here. One is, how are we promoting DEIB in the SCA without weaponizing it? Because that's the other side, that's the other danger. And also the B, the belonging part. I'm part of the DEIB committee at work, and in our own little microcosm, so we could say the academy equals SCA, for the most part, everybody gets it. But outside in the macrocosm, people ain't down with it. Still a very, how shall I say, red state company. And it's been interesting. And I think we're dealing with some of the similar things in the SCA and outside the SCA, especially with folks coming in and what, you know, like Sean Tracy was saying, the culture, what comes in isn't necessarily good, but it's what they know. And they may inadvertently, they just don't know that their behavior is bad.
Yeah.
And so how do we work with them? But also part of the B means burnout. And that was the other track that I'm picking up between the two tracks. And maybe there's more, but I'm really picking up the, how do we spread the love in a good, healthy way? And how do we avoid burnout, especially since we're talking about newcomers in a lot of situations for both.
And we want to get them involved, and we want them to become immersed in what we're doing, in the sense of, oh, I want to get involved. I want to help. And that's great. But then they're doing a lot of stuff and you're giving them too much work to do. And they say, wait a minute, this shouldn't be this much work. If we're making work for the sake of work, we need to take a time out. Work for its own sake isn't necessarily a good thing. If something needs to be done, if we need to pitch a tent, if we need to, paint a poster, if we need to fix some warmer, that's fine. That's necessary, needed work. If someone is just trying to do something because they want to keep people busy, that's not really what we need. People need to have fun. So once we set up the Eric, once we set up the pavilions and everything's going good, we should just sit back, enjoy what we're doing, talk with each other, do things, instead of, well, we got to be busy. You got time out. A lot of folks, once they're elevated to the rank of to become a Pelican, a lot of folks stop doing things because they've reached that stage of burnout. It's like, hey, let's get them to them before they burn out, so that they can continue to work, because we've done things. I'm going to use the term autocrat because it's just what I'm used to. We call it event stewarding now, but we autocrat events. We hold offices. Some people, they sit in the thrones. We do the things. We work the gate. We help. We tow water. We lift bales. We do all the stuff that has to be done. Time again, and let's get the new people involved. Let's help them learn how to become involved, not burn out.
Right. And because there are people at events who are doing 5 of those things at once, right? I'll read your questions.
Oh, it's just info. Do not be distracted.
Thank you. Because we have people who are at events who are doing 5 things at once. They're working gate, they're helping set up tents, they're doing all these things. And then somebody asked them to do something that to make things better for newcomers, that's DEIB related. And then that might be the one thing that pushes them over the edge, and they start getting upset or crying because you're asking them to do one more thing. And that's it's not necessarily their fault that they may have taken on too much stuff. And it is within all of us to be able to set boundaries to like what we can and what we can't do. But if somebody who's new comes to you and says, well, this site that's been chosen for an event is a problem because it's the history of the place is offensive to people of color, or the trans community has said, don't come to this area because it's not safe.
Right.
And those are 2 real examples that I know about that have happened, not just in the West Kingdom, right? Yeah. And if you want to, we need to find a way to spread out the volunteerism so that we have space to be able to have the brain space and the emotional space to be able to say,
yes,
okay, I would love to be able to help you and find a site that's more, it's a better site for everybody.
Yes, a better option.
Better option. That's not that, the history of the site is not offensive to people of color, and or the community is a safer space for people who are trans to come to.
Yes, and
It's
I
not
think
going to
we,
happen for every event site,
Yeah.
but you know, if we have people doing fewer things than wearing 5 different hats at once, that's a
Mhm.
way to start to avoid burnout. And then there's also room for newcomers to get involved, right?
Yeah.
Well, and the barrier I see happening is you have a lot of the old guard defending that space in the sense that, but it's got to be done a certain way.
Yeah, the way it used to be.
That's the problem is you want to get new people involved. So what you need to do is you need to embrace them, meaning talk to them. Hey, I heard you want to get involved. What kinds of things are you looking to get involved in? Help them find that space, help them get involved in that. Now what you're doing is you're helping them get past the barrier, the old guard. The people who think that things have to be done a certain way, and they're not doing it because they're malicious, not doing it because they're bad. It's because it works. It's like, okay, but there are new ways we could do things, new things we can try.
Yep. And all that feeds into a realization that I just had, which is we're in survival mode right now as a society, especially in the West Kingdom, especially in the Westermark barony, that you know, I'm still constable after how many umpty years. So when I heard at Coronet people saying, "Oh, I've been in my job for 6 years," I was like, yeah, I know that feeling. So first of all, we're in survival mode, so we don't have the luxury to think about things like DEIB and, you know, how to deal with the old guard wanting things the traditional way, which is not necessarily exactly the best way. And it was at both both of the recent events. I saw people raising their hands, you know, or putting thumbs up or thumbs down for things that surprised the stuffing out of me. You know, folks, especially old guard, going boo hiss, because it was a discussion about, you know, how do we deal with the overwhelm? How do we deal with people wearing 5 or more hats? I always say, you know, different clubs, same drama. We have the same problem
Yes,
with too many hats in other clubs too. And you know,
we're here in the triangle. We're
we are
down
the
here.
bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. You know, we're in survival mode. And basically when you're down there, you don't have time to be actualized. So, you know, how do we tie all that together to not scare the newcomers away, to let go of a few of the hats and share the love and make it a safer space.
Yeah, and letting the newcomers know that there are lots of jobs and offices that are very easy to do that many of us will be happy to help support and train you to do. And just we need someone to step in and do this role. And it's an easy role. It's we could teach you in 5 minutes what's involved with it. It's like, oh, really? It's like, yeah. And then we just talk to these people over here. We sign some paperwork, and you have an official office, and you're now officially part of the kingdom. For some people, that's incredibly empowering. And I like the idea of empowering new people to join, to belong. It's like, no, you're here. You show an interest, you're willing to do things, you're willing to step up. If you're willing to raise your hand and say, I will stand with you, you're part of the kingdom. You're part of something bigger than yourself. And that takes courage to do that. And the fact that you took the courage to do that, we're going to now say, look, you're one of us. No matter what happens, you're one of us. Something goes bad, we've got your back. We're going to support you, train you. This is how you get new people involved. This is how you get new people taking off and doing things and taking us in a new direction. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think some of the old guard are afraid to let the newcomers kind of take over in the sense that, you know, they're going to be running offices, they're going to be doing things because they're going to do it differently because they have access to new technology, they have access to new ways, new modes of thinking. And that's normal, that's natural, that's the natural course of things. We shouldn't be fighting. We should say, look, how can we utilize this new energy, the sense of volunteerism that the people are coming in with, and get them involved and keep them involved? Because the moment we've got them and then they're involved and they're not committed, they're invested. Once they start doing things, they're invested. Once they have that investment, they're going to protect it. They're going to do whatever they can to protect it. And we need the younger blood to come in. We need the new soldiers to come in and, revamp the old guard and look, let's just keep going. We're going to keep you going in the same direction. Yeah, it might be a little bit different because technology is a little different. We understand things a little differently. We understand history a little different because we have new modes of learning, new ways of looking at things. So yes, even the history that we're talking about is different than it was 30, 40 years ago because our understanding of that history is different. It is evolved.
Yep. Go for it, Lord Edward.
So I was gonna say thank you for mentioning all that because as of June this year, it'll be my 2nd-year anniversary with the SCA. But I've only been active for 7 months, and that's because no one reached out to me. When I first joined, there was no shadowing, there was no hospitaler to say, hey, welcome to the group, until I went to my first meeting and I had to go and look that up. And at that meeting, I was like, hey, first of all, I was the only guy there younger than the age of 50. And so I understand that the average age of most Scadians are approaching the retirement age. There's not a lot of 20 and 30 and 40-year-olds from what I could see within my barony. And so it's been very apparent to me that these people, older guard, as you said, are very much burnt out. And so at my very first meeting, I actually volunteered to be an officer, and they were like, what? Why? I was like, because you need help. And it sounds like you're tired of doing it. And so within the first 2 months of joining the barony, I have 2 warrants now, and I serve as a canton and a baronial officer. And it wasn't until at coronation this month that my baroness said, look, I didn't trust you at first because it was weird for someone to come in and offer to do help. And now that you've been here for 7 months, I trust you implicitly to help out however you want, because I thought it was amazing that a newcomer wanted to come in here and do something. So thank you for mentioning that.
And thank you for stepping up and actually being brave enough to say, no, I want to help. Let me help. I won't let go of you until you let me help. And sometimes that's what it takes, is just letting people understand that, no, you're serious. You want to help. You want to do something. And I see new people time and time again. And I know that some of them, they show up and they want to get involved and they're trying to get involved, and no one is letting them. No one is encouraging them. No one is accepting their offer to help. And I want to get to the bottom of that. I want to investigate that. I want to treat that like, a murder investigation. Like, what someone is killing, volunteerism here. What's happening? It's being murdered. So let's look at why. Why is that happening? Is it that you got the old guard who don't want to let go? They're afraid to let go of control. First got her hand raised.
Telenor, please.
I have the same story from the other side of that perspective. Alistair and I were the Baronesses of the Westermark before their excellencies here were, and we needed a new herald. Our herald lived like 3 branches away, but some very, very new person who we had gotten a chance to know a little bit and trusted implicitly, and volunteered to become our baronial herald. We were actually a little bit worried, and the worry wasn't because we didn't think they could do it. It's that as a new person, we wanted the new people to have a chance to find their feet, understand, the culture, understand the people they were dealing with. And this person was like, I got this. And we were like, you're sure? And they said, I'm sure. And so we said, then let's go with it. Who might that be?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know. That sounds like a weirdo. Total weirdo.
With a huge smile on her face right now.
Yeah, we haven't scared her off yet.
I don't think we will at this
No,
point.
she's in it to win it.
Sometimes you find your tribe and you just know it.
And that's the beauty. And then the tribe realizes, wait, they're one of us. They found their way home. Excellent. And we hold on to them. Rafiq.
Jake.
Yes, hello. So, I also have a very similar story. Basically, came in within Glen Aubin. My first event ever was Penzic, camping with Nisa and La Familia, and they welcomed me in, made me feel at home. My second event ever was Gulf War, and because my local um group is in Louisiana, so it was just, oh, it's close. Let me just go up there. Sent a Facebook message to one of the knights that hosts the Glen Aubin Kingdom land, and he's like, "This is land for newcomers within the Glen Aubin area who don't know who to camp with. They don't have to be in open camping. They can camp with one of Glen Aubin's local knights and basically be brought in and shown the ropes." And I met with them at Gulf Wars, was brought in, and what are you interested in? Well, I'm a firefighter and I love fire tending. And he's like, okay, the fire's now yours. So I immediately had that sense of belonging and was able to feel like my the work that I was willing to do, because I'm a very helpful person, civil servant, is instantly willing to help. Yes, it's been mostly around camp, but that's been expanding to being things for the community and the society as a whole. So even if it's not an officership, immediately giving newcomers something that they feel responsible for definitely helps with that sense of belonging, and then it encourages them to step up to do more things. And so now at this point, I'm trying to get in so that I could be a DIB deputy or whatever the case may be within Glen Aubin, so that I can continue to provide that service and ultimately teach people how to better train and encourage the newcomers. Because yes, a lot of the newcomers who find the SCA are looking for that home environment, looking for that family, and they find it. But if nobody's willing to let them have some ownership of it, it ends up pushing them away. And so, yes, definitely figuring out what's the best way to quickly build trust for the newcomers so that we can let them do things, let them have ownership, let them help, and be ultimately new officers and the ones responsible for things. So if it's every officer has a deputy position, and that's where newcomers immediately go to, or whatever and if there's a bunch of empty spots, you instead of fully giving up that hat, if you're wearing 5, you co-hat with a newcomer. So they can try and do everything, and the wealth of experience and wisdom that is had and that we have in the SCA can make sure that they're not going to fail. So it's kind of that it pulls stuff off your plate because the older folks aren't doing all of the legwork, but they can still feel that sense of control, because you don't want to let go of it if you think it might have a chance of failing. But
Yeah.
any way it goes within the SCA, nobody's going to let anybody truly fail.
No.
They have that safety net regardless. And so convincing the old guard that, hey, you can let go of this, and if something happens that it starts messing up, everybody in the community is going to make sure that it doesn't turn into a catastrophe.
Yeah, it's not going to become a train wreck. And that's
Mhm.
what's beautiful about most of the things that happen is it's not life or death. It's not super critical. No one's likely to get hurt by something. I mean, by hurt feelings. I mean, they're not going to get injured. They're not going to be killed. They're not going to, be harmed in some way. It didn't work for this.
Lean
We're
forward.
into a learning situation.
Yep, lean forward.
So,
Yeah, the
yeah,
mic's not picking up.
Let's go ahead and learn from whatever we can. And we learned. That's this that you're from the mistakes. I'm not going to make
Yep,
that's wisdom. And if we learn from each other, if we share with each other, okay, I'm going to go ahead and let's take on some deputies, simply so that people can get exposure to these various jobs. They don't know what it involves. Can you try this? Can you try that? try whatever you like. As long as you're willing to try it, you're willing to do it. I say let everybody try whatever job they want to try. It's like art. If you want to try something, try something. If it doesn't work, great. That's why there's a lot of people at events that will let people, try blacksmithing, try, calligraphy, try brewing, try cooking, all these different things. Go ahead and try it. And someone else says, I'm going to bring my tools out, and you could try it if you want. And if you're interested, great. You can learn something. If not, you've tried something. And so if you go to an event, you say, I'm going to try one new thing today. I'm going to try to learn something new today. I think that's a great attitude to especially foster in others. Like, look, you go to an event, try something new, learn something new if you can. Even if you're learning something new about a people or about a place or about a thing, you're learning something new. And then you're also maybe teach someone something, help someone learn something.
Absolutely.
Yes, it seems better. I think our
Yeah, it's a cheap
mics
laptop.
are
Sorry.
kind of duking it out. I
It's
mean,
a
we're at
cheap
opposite ends of
laptop.
the house, but there's still a little echo going on. So I will mute when His Excellency is speaking. One thing I wanted to bring up is when I first learned about the SCA through Sean Tracy, and he was saying we have doctors, we have, high-ranking military personnel, we have
Yeah, politicians.
firefighters, we have, all lawyers, and really high quality personnel coming in. And firefighter with Rafiq, and I'm so happy that immediately found a spot that resonated with him and his skills. And we want to encourage people to bring their skills. Shelban, sorry, I'm butchering that, and her work with special needs students, that we want to keep encouraging people bringing professional or personal driven high quality topics in to the SCA. I think that's what we are going to get our diversity from, and our feeling of belonging, and of course all the other acronyms as well. I want to keep that high level of quality.
Yeah, and I mean, I hear from all the newer members here, Eloise, Edward, and Rafiq, who haven't been in the SCA for decades, right? That they found they're the kind of people who were like, no, I can take responsibility. I can, for this, they actually had the motivation to do it. And not everybody does that, but some people need to be invited, right? And I'm really glad in Rafiq's case that outside of Penzic, that you were able to find a place that had open encampments for newcomers. I love that idea. I think that there are some encampments in the West that are like that. I have definitely tried to promote within the DEIB office to have people have, I've been giving out small progress pride flags for people who want to designate their encampment as a safer space for people who are queer and people of color. I would love it to be someday that we don't need those flags at all. But I'm really glad that, there are people who are extending a hand and saying, hi, come here, you're welcome here, and really meaning it to people. What did you say? The story one fellow told about 15 years passing by without being asked to help broke my heart. Yeah.
I mean, that is ridiculous that it was, that much time could go by and he just felt like it was not his place to ask. He felt like he needed to be asked. And again, that could have been something he brought from his culture. I don't know for sure, but we should be better than that.
Yeah, and a quick backstory on this. This was a discussion that happened at Miss Cornet a few weeks ago, in which their majesties and their highnesses sort of threw the floor open to discussing the problem, burnout and schedule and all these things. And, this gentleman was saying, it's like, yes, he never felt, worthy. And some people said, yeah, that's kind of a loaded word. And really, I think it was probably the best word he could have used. Is some people are worried that oh, well, am I worthy? Because some people put that out there. They sort of, again, it's some of the old guard. It's the, is this person worthy of helping? That would be the needle across the record as I go, what did you just say? Pardon me, and some bad words would come out. What did you just say? Because everybody's worthy of helping. Everybody is worthy of participating. So we need to kind of stop that sort of nonsense right there. That's the train that we're just going to hit the brakes on. Throw the boat anchor out the back. Let's stop this train, because no, we're not going to continue that discussion one more moment. Because everybody's worthy. Everybody should help. If you're brand new and you see something wrong, you should say something, because, hey, that's a fire. You just spotted a fire. We didn't see it. That's a fire. You should point it out. But yeah, the idea that, oh, but I never felt, whoa, time out. If you want to help, say, hey, can I help? That's all people have to say is, can I help with something? You see activity. The idea is, oh, the Royal Pavilion is here. Hey, can I help? Absolutely. Come with us. Let's go. Because even if you weren't trained, you could haul poles. You can help stretch out canvas. You can lay out rope. People can organize you because you're willing to help. Doesn't matter if you're trained or not. Those of us who know what's going on, come over here. We're going to get all these ropes. We're going to stretch them out and hand people ropes. And everybody can do that. Now everyone's participating. Everyone gets this great sense of satisfaction. You help put up the royal. In some kingdoms, I was told, when that shows up, everything stops. The Queen's Guard, their job isn't to put up the royal. It's the people's job to put up the royal, because it belongs to the people. Well, that makes sense. Oh, Donor.
I think the most bright, shining example I saw of the way that the SCA helps is that we were at a event in the Bay Area, which is what, 5 hours drive from Reno? Something like that?
Yeah.
And while we were in the middle of court, a person's cell phone rang. And it was her husband from Reno telling her that there had been a wildfire starting in their valley. And she interrupted court and said, I've just found out that there's wildfire in my valley. I need to leave and get home immediately. Court stopped. Everybody in the kingdom ran over, packed up their gear. It was in her car, and she was wheels rolling within 5 minutes. This is a society that helps each other in ways that in the modern world tend to be unimaginable. And yet here we all are, a part of the modern world, but helping each other in that way.
And I think that's what attracts us to the SCA is it's that idea that we can create that and have that for us, for ourselves to enjoy. It's like, yeah, it's like someone's like, no, stop. We're going to stop all this. We're all too good. We stop the whole, let's go. Let's get them packed. Let's get them gone. Now we can get back to what we're doing because this person's needs have been taken care of and this emergency, this crisis has been dealt with. But yeah, it's that sense of this is what we need. This is kind of what we need to create. And as long as we can work towards that goal, I think we're okay. I think as a society, we're okay. As long as we can, if we're having the discussion, we're talking about it, we're okay because we've got oxygen to breathe in the room. The house hasn't burned down around us. And okay, we can still talk about what's going on. So we're still in a good space. Now, could we make the space better? Absolutely. And I think that's kind of the constant work is, I've always, wanted to consider myself a safe person or to be around, meaning if someone feels unsafe, they can come to me. It's like, oh no one's going to hurt you. I guarantee no one's going to hurt you as long as I'm breathing. No one is going to hurt you. Now, I might get myself into trouble and deal with the situation, but that's it. Let me cross that bridge. I'll worry about that for you. But yes, I think that we need to always look to improve our situation. Because, yeah, I'd like to see in the next generation have it easier than us. And I think that's really the mindset that we've lost in society in general. Because some people say, no, we can't have it better than other. It's like, no, some of our founding fathers basically, no, their idea was they want their kids to not have to fight war. And then they want their grandkids to be able to, enjoy portraiture and all these other things, to be so far removed from politics and war that we have a better society. But some people know, no, each generation has to work hard. Work harder, not smarter. That doesn't make sense. Let's work smarter, not harder. But no, work smarter, not harder. I'm going to learn from someone else's mistakes. I'll learn from my own, yes, but I'd rather learn from someone else's, because then I don't have to make that mistake myself. I don't have to suffer that loss. I don't have to suffer that injury. I'm gonna learn from some, and if we all learn from someone else's mistake, that one poor person that got hurt, okay, hopefully they survived it, but we all learn from that. Yes, the Puritan were, yes, it needs to go away. Sorry, the Puritans weren't as pure as they like to make people think. They weren't.
Yeah, I always find it interesting that and I won't diverge into a religious topic, but the observation of they were escaping persecution. Yeah, how ironic is that? We'll just leave that one alone.
Yeah.
But the idea of a side hustle that needs to die in a fire, the working to live, the living to work kind of thing. It's like, guys, no, and gals, and everybody else too, because
Yeah, in between.
I think pandemic kind of did a fault reset for a lot of this, but I am struggling with seeing folks, gosh, sounds familiar, trying to return to the before times. And it's like, no, we need to let aspects of the rat race go. Let's not
Yes.
do this just for the sake of doing it. Now, when I say, the Puritan work ethic needs to go away, I'm not saying that people don't need to pay their dues, but what I mean by that is, you earn your stripes as far as learning how to do something correctly. It isn't you suffer for the sake of suffering. It isn't that you're being hazed to be hazed. All of that is just BS. And it's not constructive. Yeah, you need to work hard, sure, but not
Maybe.
for no reason whatsoever, or not to, you have to suffer as much as those who came before. That's ridiculous. We need to encourage new blood, new generations. And if they're struggling, and I know that the youngest generation is struggling now for a lot of reasons, we need to help them.
They shouldn't be struggling. They should be standing on our shoulders. That's really how it works, is you stand on the shoulders of giants and you achieve great things, because we've already done a certain amount of heavy lifting. That shouldn't have to be built every generation. That's insane. And that's where we're at, is folks want the next generation to have to work just as hard as them, and suffer just as hard as they can stop. If you had to suffer, there's something wrong. Something happened, and we need to look at that, but that's a separate situation. I learn, and then someone else after me learns, and my hope is that that person learns more than me, because now I'm bettered by it. I benefit from that person. That's why I'm always a big fan of education. And whether I have kids or not, I will happily pay property taxes and everything else for education, because everyone benefits from that person's education. Whether it's they want to go to college, whether they want to learn a trade, whether they're going to go into service, whatever they're going to do, that's still education. We all benefit from it, because a better educated society is also one that's less prone to BS and propaganda. It's really hard to get a highly educated populace to agree to go to war. That just simply, it's not going to work. We're not going to buy into the propaganda, because we're smart enough to think for ourselves. We're engaged in critical thinking. And that's why I always try to help, young people. It's like, look, pursue whatever you want to pursue education wise. And if you have an opportunity to experiment and to explore, do that, because why not learn how to do something you're really good at? because if you're really good at it, you'll probably enjoy it more. I got lucky. I learned how to do drafting and engineering type work as a kid because I grew up around it. My dad was a designer. So I grew up with all this. Look, he said, you take a drafting class in middle school and high school, and I can always help you get a job. No matter what else you do in life, I can always help you get a job. And it served me really well because no matter whatever else I did in life, I came back to this thing, and I still enjoy doing it. I enjoy going to my job. I enjoy supporting the engineers and the scientists that I support doing this thing. And I really don't see why anyone would want to do anything different, with their lives. And so, yes, let's see if we can find better, safer ways to get new people engaged in the SCA, get them involved, get them helping. I've been a constable for decades. So, doing the fire watch, going for a walk. It's like, look, just grab some of the new constables. Okay, we're just going to do a walk. And you walk around, you look for things that are unsafe. You look for, oh, there's a fire that's not being tended. You look at all the things, because it's more than just working gate. It's more than just, taking money and signing people in. There's a lot more to that office. And for some people, it's like, oh, there's more than just paperwork. Yes. Paperwork is only one part of a job, and it's there because, we have to report how many people attended. Was there an injury? With the fighters, okay, was there any incidents with fighting? That's important because we have to keep track of things that happen. But there's also, hey, let's go check on people's, there's been a lot of wind. Let's go check on people's guidelines for some of their pavilions and go and check people's guidelines, because someone may be off fighting. You may have a whole company of people off fighting, and they come back and their whole tent is, their camp is in disarray. Why? Well, because the wind was blowing and changing direction and no one checked the guidelines. Okay, walk around. Make sure everything's secure. Make sure nothing falls down. Make sure someone's, campfire doesn't blow out of control. Okay, that's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. You're getting involved. It's not a difficult job. Oh, sure, I can know how to do that. I can help people pound in stakes, or in this case, we're using drills to drive in lag bolts. It's like, well, that's an even easier way of doing it. Hey, there's all kinds of things we can bring, and we can share, and we can give, and we can take. Sometimes accepting someone helping, fine. I'm not going to do that, but supposed to let people help me. Okay, I mean, that's one of the things being told. It's like, okay, well, we're not really royalty, but we're like royalty. We're supposed to let people help us. That makes sense because that gives people an opportunity to volunteer. Now, I'm not going to let you make my sandwich because I like my sandwich a certain way, but you can help me set up the tent, or you can help me carry some things. Hey, great. Get people involved.
That's been part of the adaptation to stepping up. Is I'm usually a helper. I'm usually running behind, taking the six, carrying stuff, and I'm reaching for things, and I'm like, ooh, and somebody will, politely stoop, and I'm like, okay, it's a learning process.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, of us doing it for a couple of years. Is it takes us a while. We get used to this. Oh, now we can handle this. The royalty, it's like they step up. They finally get used to accepting help, and then they got to step back down. It's like, oh wait.
But then I guess the good thing is, and I always see this happening, is that when people do step down from their office or their throne, that they're going to be the first people to volunteer to help out the next time.
Because they know.
Because they
they've done
know.
a job.
Yeah. And yeah, we need one of you just said about like, accepting the help. I think Baroness Coleman, you said like accepting the help, like people have to learn to accept help so that people who are new can say, hi, I'd like
I've
to help.
helped.
Okay. And we might talk about this in the general DEIB discussion after lunch, but I just want to say that I don't know the full extent of how things are going to change in the DEIB office now that there is a society level chatelaine and a society level DEIB officer. I think it's going to help to unify the message that goes out and how they're going to train people to do things like this. Like how do people, to tell people to be more open and accepting of other people, of new people and volunteers. I mean, that is number one, the first place we have to start, I think, is to, this whole discussion we've had for the past 50 minutes or so. And I mean, I know that the Chatelaine and the DEIB office have to work together, and I'm hoping that
Yes.
that will be part of the unified message that comes out of having those two greater offices. I'm going to learn more tomorrow at the West Kingdom officers meeting. I know that that's going to be talked about. So yeah, Rafiq, accept help and ask for help early. I'm very, very lucky. Like I remember that I was at an event and I'm blanking on her name right now because I'm talking. Somebody said that they were running some events, they were event stewarding some events, and that there were definitely events that needed people to be event stewards for. And I was like, I was new to the West, not new to the SCA, but I was like, okay, how can I help? Oh, well, these are the events that we need help with running. And I was like, okay. And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah. I mean, that's how it goes, right? And I always believe in if you're running events or you're leaving the room for people to shadow you, like the first couple of events I ran, I shadowed the person a year before or 6 months
Sure.
before to
Sure.
learn how that event was run. Leave notes, I'm writing I'm trying to write a manual or a guidebook for my officer position so that the person who comes after me, my successor, is not left with a blank page. Like, how do I do this? We don't need to leave, like you were saying earlier, the Puritan work ethics has to go. Part of our job part of our lineage is to leave information to make it easier for the next people to come up behind us.
Yes. Yeah. We're leaving the tools for others to follow us.
Yeah.
So that by the time, 6 generations come along, they've got a whole rolling toolkit ready to go with whatever they need because we've all figured it out. And something new might come up, that goes in the toolkit too. But yes, I like the idea of, at collegiums, they need to have classes on event stewarding. And it's one of those, yes, encourage all the new people to at least sit down and listen to it because they might be in a position where they're going to help someone with an event. And if you've already been briefed on this is what happens at an event, this is how an event is run. And if everybody understands how events work, kind of from the get-go, like when you join the SCA, it's like, oh, if everyone has a little bit of understanding, the event goes better because, oh, I know where I can step in and help. I know what I can do. I can contribute to this. And let people contribute and let people communicate that I want to do this. I want to help. I can do these things. Because if we have a list, even if it's just a mental list of people that we know can help with things, hey, can you go take care of that for me? Absolutely. Because I already know that person can do that. They've done it before. It's a simple thing. They can run in and grab somebody, take care of something. It's not hard to let others get involved. The hard part is letting go of that control. But it's got to be. We need to stop trying to be movie directors. Only the event steward gets to be the movie director. Sorry, that's just how that works. That's why we used to actually call it the autocrat.
Yeah, but there's problems with that word too. So
Oh, I know.
That's why I try to make sure that people know that event steward is a little bit of a mouthful to say, but it's just, I'm not, I don't mean to be discouraging you either, but
No, but I mean, but that's kind of why it's like we got used to that word because that's the person in charge of the event.
So
And that's why we had used that term for so long. And they said, we're going to use the term event steward because it sounds a little less autocratic.
Yes.
But the idea was this person is in charge, which means there are certain things that they're responsible for. They're in charge of the event, and even the royalty understood. No, this person is in charge of the event. Whatever this person needs, unless they're asking me to violate corporate law, I'm going to back them because that's what you do.
Right.
You take care of the people running your events for you, because really it kind of comes down to they're the ones with their neck on the line, because they're the ones signing the contract, taking care of the stuff. Now I understand that, yeah, for insurance we've got things like the seneschal is supposed to sign the contract because they're the local representative, etc. Like, okay, that's fine. We have insurance, which is great. But yeah, running an event, holding an office, doing a collegium or some sort of class where you're teaching a class. These are all things that I want to see more new people getting involved in, not necessarily running the class, but taking classes. Because I always liked, at a collegium, having new people I knew that were pretty new, coming in and sitting in one of my classes. Because, hey, I'm gonna teach this person something they didn't know before. That's kind of cool.
Apparently our time is now up.
Oh no, we've been having such a wonderful time.
Thank you all for this discussion. I'm gonna try to save the chat. Yeah, okay.
I'm going to stop recording.
Thank you very much.